Today I'm talking to Liz Bentley about the non-negotiables of being a top-performing realtor. Liz is not a top real estate agent. Among leaders in other industries, she coaches and consults top real estate agents around the world. She's the founder and CEO of Liz Bentley Associates. She has a unique focus on mindset and its power to transform behavior and results that is based on her lifetime of experience in competitive sports. Liz delivers keynotes to Fortune 500 companies, including SHRM, Know Your Value, Microsoft, IBM, and Sotheby's International Realty. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today we have Liz Bentley, who is not a real estate agent, but she is a coach, a top coach of top real estate agents with Liz Bentley and Associates. She coaches not only top real estate agents, which is how we know one another, but top executives and leaders around the country. So I'm really excited to get real estate perspective and outside of our business perspective on how to make us all better people and better at what they do. Liz, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jere. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are obviously excited to have you. So tell us a little bit, just, I've kind of started, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, I have a leadership development consulting firm. And what we do is we study basically human behavior and how to help human beings perform in top performance scenarios. And we do a lot of work in corporate America, working with big companies like a Microsoft and IBM, down to mid-size and sometimes smaller privately owned companies. We also do a lot of work in real estate, as you noted, in all cases, helping all of them figure out how to get to peak performance, regardless of the industry.
So, and you've also got history on the getting people at top performance in competitive sports, lacrosse and soccer. Tell us a little bit about that, and then maybe get us back into how that's relevant to what you do now, or how that helps you do what you do now.
Yeah, the thing, what got me interested in doing the corporate coaching and the kind of CEO coaching that we've done a lot of, and the real estate coaching as well, is that before I got into coaching at all, I was raised as a pretty serious athlete, playing very competitively my whole life. So my whole life I had great coaches, and I learned a lot about how to perform. And what you find in athletics is that once you get to a high level of athletics, everybody is very athletic and very committed. Everybody's working really, really hard to be there. So the thing that's the differentiator in most games and in most high performance scenarios is mindset, and getting your mindset into the right place so you can perform in the right moment, so that you can, create great scenarios, win games, throw touchdowns, hit baskets, whatever it is, score goals in the moments that count the most. And it's the exact same thing in business, right? In real estate, if you're pitching for a really competitive property and listing presentation, you want to be able to do it really well in the moment. If you're in a tough negotiation, you've got to be able to rise in the moment, no matter how much pressure is on you. So it's a lot of the same stuff. And we teach all of our agents as well as our executives on how to be prepared for those moments so that they can rise.
I love that. So I think a lot of people think about, they want step-by-step what to do's and how to do's. Your clients pretty much have that covered. You're just shifting them into the right mindset. And what have you found is the biggest difference from people when they get to you, and what their mindset is and what they're usually thinking, and where they typically end up once they've had that shift in perspective?
So that's a really interesting question. A lot of people come to me or come to us. We have a whole practice of coaches and people that work in our organization, but they come to us thinking they want something. And it can be anything. They might want life balance, or they might want, especially in real estate, they might want more life balance, or they might want to double their income, or they might want to build a team, right? But often I find that after we work together, we kind of find out what they need. And when they find out what they need, that's when they really rise into the next level. So it's not always obvious what it is that actually needs to happen until we start to work together and get there kind of together.
Yeah.
I had a client who came in to me recently, a high-end real estate broker in one of the top cities in the country. And I was talking to her this past week. It was only our second call. And she came to me and said, okay, I want to make a lot more money. I really want to get into the next tier. She's doing very well, but she wants to rise in that top, be one of the top 10. She's probably in the top 20. And, all of her thoughts on how to get there were from one angle. When I started talking to her, she was telling me a story about how when she was 15 years old, her father died. And I said, wow. And she told me the story of how painful it was and how her, how her mom and her brother and herself all had to rise up and grow through it and work through all this stuff to get there today. And they all ended up being amazingly successful. And she said, well, because of that experience, that's why, and she said all these negative things. That's why I'm so tough. That's why I have to work so hard. That's why, and she said a third negative thing. And I thought that's so interesting because when I hear your story, I heard that's why you're so amazing. That's why you're so resilient. That's why you're so good at what you do. So in just that one coaching session, I realized, wow, for this person to grow into the top 10, she's got to turn that story around because she's carrying a burden instead of carrying a gift. So people's people's lives, unlocking their lives to get into top performance, every single person's got a different thing to unlock to get there. And then you might decide, you know what, I don't even want to be in the top 10. I actually just want to do this instead. Who knows? It's always going to be different. So why people come to us and where they go can be different scenarios.
I love that. But some of it's people come thinking they want one thing and realizing it's completely different and kind of unlocking. Lauren Holleran was on our show recently. Actually, she didn't say this on the show, but she talks about like sometimes it's just the smallest shift that makes the biggest difference. And she has like this cute little salt shaker analogy. Like you just have to click it so that the salt comes out, and it's just a little shift. Yeah. And it makes a world of difference of what happens in people. So I think like the question I like to ask, and you've already started answering, but I'm going to elaborate on it anyway, is I really have been so excited to ask you this question is because you work with, you don't just work with realtors, you work with the best of the best and the leaders in many industries, but what is the common denominator? Everybody knows being a real estate agent is so competitive. Everybody says, I got in this business because my friends would hire me, and then you find out it's a different thing because it's so competitive. What do you find, whether they've been with you or not, just an overall, what do you find is the common denominator of all of these successful real estate agents that you come across over and over again?
When they asked the Stanford Business School advisors, what were the two most important qualities they saw in great leaders? The answers were resilience and self-awareness. Okay, so the resilience to get back up, because to be a great leader, you got to be able to get back up. Now, to be a top real estate broker, you have to be incredibly resilient, right? Incredibly resilient, because it's a constant battle. You're in a constant battle. The second thing is that self-awareness, because every time you have a loss or something goes the wrong way, the way you rebuild, the way you get better is you have to look at what you have to own. You have to look at what you have to grow, what you have to do better, what is your piece. Now, we can spend all day long talking about everybody else, talking about our clients that are difficult, the other agent that sabotaged us, the manager who's not fair to us, the market that's, soft, you name it, okay? We can spend all of our time talking about all the factors, but it doesn't matter. What makes great leaders and great agents and great owners are people who can look at themselves and say, here's what I could do better, period. And constantly tweak that, constantly work on it, constantly reassess. Those are the people who are really successful.
I love that. And I find that the group of agents that we know one another through, that we do a lot of masterminding through, is the common theme. It's something I kind of had an epiphany, and it's back to what you said, is that, in having problems, is that you get in some groups and some settings where problems are problems, and that's what they talk about and how wrong it is and how unfair it is because this is wrong and this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in groups where problems there don't exist. It's just opportunities. It's this is the situation and this is the opportunity that we're getting out of it and that we're gonna leverage. Or this is the problem, which is, oh wait, this is why we're valuable, because there are problems that we have the expertise and experience to bring the solution or find the opportunity in. Or I always tell my kids, problems and opportunities are the same thing. It's just which word you use. So, but it's exactly kind of what you said. I love that you said that, but that resonated with me and the group of people that we know one another through and in that common denominator of leaders. Tell us so in working in, this show focuses our audience as real estate agents, or that's who we speak to, but I'd love to know, what do you find? We think of real estate agents, we're salespeople, it's sales, and then you're also dealing with executives and corporate leaders. What do you take from each? How are they different and how are they similar? I think a lot of people realize when they get really good at real estate, you're not just a salesperson, you are an executive of your business. Or that's where my question's coming from, and you correct me, but I'd love to get some perspective on that as well.
Okay, so I think that there's a lot of similarities between corporate America and real estate, and then there's a lot of differences. And where I see the big, the competition and the competitiveness and the drive and the hard work, that's all similar to corporate America. The need to be constantly connected and responsive to clients and things like those things are all similar. Where I see a really big difference is accountability. Real estate agents don't have the same level of accountability. In corporate America, if you're not doing a good job, someone's going to let you know pretty quickly. There's this thing called feedback, and you get a lot of it in corporate America. And in some companies, you get it all the time. In some companies, every presentation is going to be critiqued. Every meeting is going to get critiqued. I have a friend who worked at Goldman Sachs, and when she retired, she said, I can't believe how odd it is to not be constantly told what I'm doing right and wrong, because I just was used to it all the time. So, in real estate, you have to really be critiquing yourself or figuring out another way to get really honest feedback so you can grow and not see feedback as a negative.
Interesting. So what are ways that you help clients or you see real estate agents able to, because I think a lot of agents may not be successful because they don't have that opportunity and don't recognize it, because it goes back to your self-awareness point. In corporate America, there's a real self-awareness accountability program, and in real estate it's a lot of pats on the back, and everybody else sits and sees the pats on the back, but they're not sure why they're getting it except to blame other people and problems instead of take on that self-awareness. So what are some things that you have seen agents do? Obviously working with you would be one thing that could help, but even in, like, say we're going into presentations all the time, but we have no one there but the client to hire us or not hire us, and then may have hired us even though we could have done a much better job. So what are some ideas or things that you would give us to
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things that you guys are up against is getting the real feedback, so because they'll just give it to you. But you have to get the truth. And it starts a little bit with just paying attention to yourself. So there's two ways of getting feedback, or two forms of feedback. One is informal feedback, and the other is formal feedback. So informal feedback is when you don't get invited to a lunch. That was your informal feedback, that they don't want you there. If you didn't get the presentation, you didn't get the listing, that was your really formal feedback, but you didn't get it. So something wasn't good enough. So when we get informal feedback, I find it's a really good opportunity to grow. And I find that people, their instinct is first to get mad at people when they get informal feedback. But I always say, no, that was a gift. Let's look at the informal feedback and find out what's going on. If you want to be invited to that lunch, why are you not getting invited? And let's understand it. You want to be able to understand the informal feedback and understand if it's not going in your direction, why that is, to really understand what's happening.
So how do you go ahead, finish.
Well, so then you can go to formal feedback. You can ask directly if you think you'll get it. If you don't think you'll get it, you can try different scenarios and see what starts to work. Going to formal feedback, it is good to go to people who are honest, who will be willing to give you honesty. People a lot of times are afraid of those people, but the good news is that they'll tell it straight. And so you ask them and you say, I'd love to sit down with you and I'd love you to give me some, honest feedback on what you feel I do well and where you feel like I could improve. Or you could give them the questions in advance and then and tell them that you really are looking to grow and, give them the opportunity to give you that feedback. And then give them the opportunity to get out of it if they don't want to, because some people just don't want to do it,
Yeah.
You can also ask your team because they might be more willing to give you answers. Your manager, we do two other things. We have an Agent 360, which is a feedback report where we ask people anonymously to give feedback on their agents, and that can be other agents, people who work on their team, as well as clients. So that's one way. And that's a model from corporate America, because we do 360s in corporate America all the time, which is a way of soliciting feedback anonymously, so people can get the real feedback.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, Agent 360. So I would assume, to understand what that is, because I want to have some questions about it, you're doing that from a business perspective of just getting the general public's impressions of their agents to help, or what do y'all use that for?
So the way it's called a 360 feedback, and the point of it is to ask people who work with you in all capacities what you are like, how you're doing. So you go to your clients.
So you would have one of your clients send one to everybody, but they would know that they're returning it anonymously.
Let's use you as an example. If you came to me and said, Liz, I'm really stuck. I feel like I need to get some feedback. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of stuck at this level. So I'd say, okay, give me a list, pick out people you want to get feedback from, and make sure don't just get your fans. Pick some clients where maybe some things went wrong, it didn't go that well. Ask some other agents who like you and agents who don't like you, and you've had struggles with. Ask your manager, ask some of the marketing team, the people that work inside the company, and then ask any team members. Give us all those emails, and we're going to put them into categories so we know, like, when we get the feedback in, what came from other agents, what came from clients. But we're going to send it out to like 15 different people, right? So we're going to get a really good and then we're going to put together a whole document for you, a whole profile around this feedback that's going to pull out all the stuff and tell you, here's what you do great, here's what you struggle with, and here's how to make these improvements. So we do this in corporate America. We don't do a coaching project without a feedback report. We don't even engage with a client unless we want a feedback, because we have to make sure we have the real feedback to work with them, right?
Not that person's perspective. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I was working with an office in New York, and they asked me to coach a real estate agent. And they said to me, she's great. She's selling it in the $5 to $10 million area, and she wants her average list price to go up into the 10 to 20 million, right? She wants to get to the next level of apartments and homes. So I interviewed her at the beginning. I said, I'm really excited about the coaching. And she said, I know what I need to do. I just need to get more aggressive. I just have to get out there and get more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, great. But I'm going to run a 360 feedback first. So in this case, it wasn't an online one. I went around and interviewed everybody. And do you know what everyone told me she needed to do to get to the next level?
Back off.
She needed to be less aggressive.
Yeah. They
said being aggressive works at the 5 to 10 million, but not the 10 to 20. So
exactly.
I hear that all the time.
Well, what got you here? I had this conversation with somebody recently. What gets you to one level is not what gets you to the next level. And to flip it for a minute is, in my business, I've become very successful because, like, if a problem comes my way, I react to everything, which is also a weakness I recognize. But everything that comes my way, it's like solve it. If there's a problem, I just solve it. Like, if it's my job, not my job, it's a problem, I have a solution right now, and I implement it, and that's all I do. And so it's like, I'm doing what got me here, but it's not going to get me there. Solving all these little problems, or, I mean, she's not that is easy. We haven't done a 360 on me, but it's interesting because I thought my problem is what got me here is never going to get me there. And who knows what else I've got going on. But with her, what got her there She's like, oh, I just need more of that. Like, I always want to just solve more problems. And that's just like, no, I've got to let other people solve my problems so I can take my brain capacity to do something else. So I love that. So here's what I'd love to know for all of us. Go ahead.
No, your example is exactly right. Like what was not getting her there was trying to be more aggressive. It was actually completely counterproductive.
Right.
But it did get her to the first stop. Yeah.
Yeah. What got her where she was, she thought more of it was going to get her there. So I would love to know, for the sake of the story, but also for the sake of all of us self-actualizing or making our attempts, is being faced with something like that is kind of takes a lot of humility. Mm-hmm. When you go through that with agents, how do they, I'm sure it depends on the personality, but do you have any examples of where it's been easier than you thought or very challenging for that person to really go, okay, ego aside, like, this is my deal, this is what do you find your experiences with that is actually getting people to, you did it, but getting people to hear it, see it, understand it, and take action with it?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, because sometimes we create a lot of barriers to seeing our truth, and it can be really hard. And agents have very big personalities and they are successful. So for some people, it can be very hard, and I find with most of my clients, I know what they need to do to grow to the next level. I know what they're going to need. I can see it in those first couple of calls, the things they say to me, kind of like that example I gave you earlier. But to really get them there, to get them to be able to hear it, to get them to believe it, sometimes it just takes massaging, mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't see our truths because they're painful. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't see our truths because our ego's too big. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we can, and all of a sudden it's easier. And then another truth is harder. So growing, growth and comfort don't coexist. To grow to the next level, you have to work through some level of pain to grow. That's just the way it is. My mom always said there's no free lunch. Yeah. It's just the way it is to grow. If you want to keep growing, if you want to go to the next level, you have to learn to work through that pain and see that truth so that you can evolve. But to be honest with you, not doing that is much more painful. Not evolving, not pushing yourself to become a better version of who you are is worse. It's actually worse. It feels worse.
It makes me think about, I'm sure have you read Good to Great? I think I quote this all the time, but the book Good to Great was popular like 15 years ago or whatever. But it talks about it's easier to be great than it is to be good. When you refine what you do and you make things better and you're passionate about and the part of being great is being passionate. That's part of their whole formula. Uh-huh. But it's back to what you said. It's like, it's actually just as easy or easier to be in that realm of greatness than to be in that realm of good or mediocrity. So what do you find is, so when people kind of go, okay, this is it, this is my reality, how challenging and how fast or slow and how much does it vary from getting from that actualization and acceptance of this is the gap between my truth and the truth, and making what I want my truth to be and the truth to coming together?
Depends. Everyone's different. I mean, sometimes somebody has a light bulb and they go, wow, and they can make a really big shift, but everyone's different. I mean, sometimes somebody has a light bulb and they still can't make the change. Other times I've got to fight and fight and fight, like to prove my case to somebody, for them to really see their truth. And when you're trying to help someone see your truth, you have to have a lot of empathy because for whatever reason, like I said, they've created a lot of blocks.
It sounds just like our business. It sounds like exactly what we do with sellers and buyers. So, So, it's like you're doing it and you're trying to like use different words and use different language to unlock people and let them hear it. And similar to you, so I try to get them to invest in believing that if they listen to me, it's all going to get better. It's going to get better. Like, just like you're trying to convince someone, look, if you sell your house, it's actually going to be better. Like, there are probably a lot of times you're looking at a client and thinking, I know it's going to be better if you just can have faith and listen to my direction, right? Yeah. You just need faith that I know what I'm talking about, and I know it's hard for you to see
because this feels painful for you. But if you just believe, then I'm going to get you to the other side. So there's two scenarios. One is where I'm getting somebody to just have faith and kind of follow me and say, look, I just believe in this process and believe in the pain you're going to go through, that when you get to the other side, everything in your life is going to be better. Not just your work, everything, like your personal life, everything is going to get better. But you've got to just have faith in this process and help me help you go to the other side. Okay, so that's one. And I've had clients say to me, this is so hard. This is so hard. Not all the time. I mean, not for everyone, but for some people, that truth, getting into that truth is really painful, right?
Yeah.
Whereas where I say I have to pull somebody through the fire. And what that means is that, like, between me and someone else, right, there's this fire between us. And they're on the other side. And often when they're on the other side, they're angry. And they can't, place why they're angry. They're not mad at me. They're angry about something. They're angry they're not getting ahead. They're angry at whatever the circumstance. They've come up with all these storylines. And I always say everyone's got storylines in their head that don't make, that everyone creates storylines in their head for why they have to be the way they are. I'm like this because
yeah.
Okay, and these storylines are stopping you from rising, right? They're stopping you from becoming the best version of yourself. But you've created all these storylines. It's about my difficult client. It's about this agent that's, driving me crazy. It's about the market not being good enough. It's, we've created these storylines. So I have to debunk all the storylines to get somebody there, right? And, but when I have to pull somebody through the fire, it's like I almost have to reach through and pull them across, right? Then I have to be really direct and really harsh and really just say, this is how it is. And if you're not willing to come, it's not going to work. Now, I do it a lot. I do it a lot in corporate America because I deal with a lot of men with really big egos who've been told they're great their whole life.
Just like we realtors do.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. We're negotiating a deal, but they know better because, and all they have to do is fire me. I love it, but finish. It's you love it. But it's also relevant to our site. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, no, so I have to tell them whatever it is, I have to tell them it's not working and everything you're doing. And I have to really articulate it's like I always say, a good thing I'm a lawyer and I can litigate. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm kidding, but that's what it's like. It's like I'm litigating in the highest court with these people with huge egos. And sometimes it's women too. I don't want to make it all about men. People who've been very successful in very powerful positions who are not going to get to their next individual level unless I pull them through the fire. And I'm being told I have to do it. I'm being told it's this or not.
So the company's hiring you.
Yeah.
All right, come deal with our executive, get him to the next level. So at least he can't fire you. Our clients just fire us. But go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, but I've done it with agents too, and agents can do the same thing to me. They can fire me if I tell them something I don't want to hear. Yeah, and that's happened where I've told somebody something exactly they need to hear, and it's so scary for them. It's easier to fire me than to deal with the pain, right?
Exactly. So how do you have those conversations, or how do you? And I say that on two levels for us with our own clients, but also I'm kind of in everybody let's self-actualize and think about and even talking to ourselves, how do we resonate? And we're not the only ones that have the challenges to overcome, the difference between our truth and the real truth and the gap between all of that. So
I always stay very steeped in everything I'm doing is in their best interest. And I never waver from that emotion. And your vibration comes through more powerful than anything else. So the feedback I get from my clients, and I get feedback too. I mean, I always purposely try to get feedback as much as I can. And I always get one of the positive feedbacks I get is people always feel like I'm in the foxhole with them, that I'm really in it. So for the most part, because I never waver from really being in it with them, really working towards their best interest. And if their best interest is pulling them through the fire, then that's what I'm willing to do. In other words, I'm willing to give really uncomfortable feedback, uncomfortable for me, because I think it's in their best interest. So first, I never waver from that emotion, and I think that's always felt. That doesn't mean it's going to work. And I also try to make sure, I always try to shift language if it's not working, because the person can't hear. Language is very tricky. So people get very caught up in different language. So I use the DISC assessment. So I always know the personality type of my person. So I know the language they're going to respond to. So for example, I had a leader who was an S, and I kept telling her she had to fight for her people, and she couldn't respond to that. So then I shifted the word to advocate.
Because a D would have understand, because D's are dominant. But explain to everybody who happens to not know what S is.
So the S personality type is a little more passive, and they like peace, and they want everyone to feel good and be happy, and they want consensus, and they build for support and consensus, and they always want the win-win. So the word fight to them is too aggressive. So when I would say you've got to fight for your people, they need raises, they need someone to fight for them behind closed doors. And she just, that was just too. So when I said advocate, you've got to advocate was a supportive word. So once I shift the word to advocate, she opened.
Wow.
So you have to pay attention to the words that make people shift so they can hear you.
That's a powerful example. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to do that a lot. I mean, with D's, you always have to be pointing them towards the win. With the I's, you have to connect to their emotions. It feels right, right to them. So you have to really understand human beings and how to motivate them if you want to be working at a really high level. So that's one of the ways that I can get people.
I love what you just said. You have to understand people and their emotions if you want to work at a high level.
Yeah, that's a given.
That's just because so many people are like, I can't deal with people. I hate people. I just don't want to work with people. It's like, well,
no.
Yeah.
And not only do you, first of all, that's a non-negotiable. There's a couple of non-negotiables, and one is understanding human beings. You are in real estate, you are in the people business, period. So mastering people is a mandatory skill set. Being the master of understanding people and not making it about yourself is, and the other non-negotiables are resilience and self-awareness. That goes without saying. You've got to be, resilient, But not understanding people it's just mandatory. If you don't understand people, you're going to get beat by someone else who does. And not only do you have to understand people, but you have to be able to get along with the hard personalities, not the easy ones, because the easy ones are called easy because they're easy.
Exactly. Right? Well, and to elaborate on the difficult personalities, I have found it's taken me a long time, but the difficult personalities, when I give them the space and have the right kind of conversations with them, they come around, and by the time you're done, they're like, whatever you say, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
That's
just
right.
Whatever you want. The difficult personalities actually become easy, but it's in mastering dealing with them. But back to mastering dealing with people, you said D's, you have to point them to the win. The I's, they're about connecting emotions.
Yeah.
The S's, what are the S's and the C's?
So the S's, they are people that you want to keep. The S's, they look for collaboration and the win-win. So in a real estate transaction, they want to make sure everyone's going to be happy.
And remind us what the S stands for everybody who doesn't.
Steady. That's the steadies. So they want to make sure everyone's going to be happy, that everyone's going to walk away feeling good about what's going on, and that it's going to be a win-win for everyone involved. They'll even take a hit on something to make sure it works out well for everyone.
And what about the C's?
And the C's want to make sure it's right. It's all being done right. Technically, there's a good process. They feel safe about everything. They want to know all the steps that happen. See, C's don't like surprises. So they don't like to know that anything is spontaneous. They want to know it's all thought through, and that you've thought through every scenario that can happen and how it's going to go, and that they're prepared for all kinds of situations.
And what is C? I forget. What does C stand for?
Conscientious. That's the conscientious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for us realtors, because obviously I'm flipping back and forth between what you do and how you help people self-actualize and how we can self-actualize, and also dealing with our clients is very similar, and you dealing with your clients, because we are all kind of coaches of our clients through the process. So we're not really testing our clients with disc tests. Maybe we should be. Or how do you help realtors, or how do you suggest we figure out? Usually you kind of know if you're what you're dealing with, but do you have any clues that you can, or like any quick tips on quickly assessing what people are when you get them on the phone?
Yeah, I think it's not actually that hard to figure out. I think you can kind of figure it out pretty quickly, and that your D's are obviously the easiest to figure out because they're so direct and they're so demanding, and they're impatient, so they're pretty easy and they're pretty tough. And then the C's are quiet, they're a little more quiet and they're more skeptical, and they kind of always have a furrowed brow and they're looking at you, kind of like, are you really being honest with me? And they're very detail driven, the eyes are, they're super smiley and they're happy and they really want you to like them. And they want to talk about a lot of personal stuff. But they're very scattered, and they're all over the place. They say they want to buy a condominium and then they buy a colonial, it's like, they're just going to go all over.
Exactly.
And they're going to tell you, I'll know it when I see it, kind of thing. And then the S's are quiet and much more what we call your friendly neighbor. They want to make you happy. So when you say, did you like the kitchen? They say, well, did you like the kitchen?
Oh, God, which is the worst.
Yeah.
I've had those. I've been like, look, you can't like everything.
Yeah.
You just can't like everything, and it's okay to be honest. But yeah.
But here's why you have to know about an S. The S is saying to you, they're trying to make you happy. So that's why they're saying they like everything. So you want to establish with an S right from the beginning, this isn't, my happiness is about getting you what you need. So we have to be honest with each other, because I'm not attached to any of these kitchens. I'm not attached to any, I'm attached to you having success. That's my only investment. So feel really free to be honest with me, because all that matters to me is that you get what you need, and so I need you to tell me the truth so you have to kind of get there with them right away. So they feel free for them to talk more openly. The S's will feel free to talk more openly if you can establish a relationship with them that you really need and want the direct feedback so you can help them.
Probably good with lots of questions also, I would think.
So yeah, to a degree. But you have to make sure they're quiet, so give them space to answer. Don't stack your questions.
Okay. Just
give them the space.
I always talk about, like, I have a habit of, I love to talk, obviously. So I'm always like, have this thing with myself when I'll literally will count to 4. I'll ask a question and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, and like at 3 I'm like and I'm like, by the time I finish saying 4, they'll start talking if I'll just get to 4 for that exact reason, because I think I'm like the D, and I know I'm a D. I've done the test, so I want to talk a lot and control everything. So the S's, I have to just like really back off, and it feels awkward, but it gives them that room to think and process and answer our questions.
But that's a really great example of where you created self-awareness, right? That you're asking too many questions and moving too fast wasn't working for people. And so you created a system for yourself to make you better at it. That's a great example.
Everybody laughs when I tell them about that, but it works. Yeah.
It's good.
It's huge. No, thank you. So that's great. So what are, what are some other, because I have 2 questions, but yeah, go ahead.
I want to tell you one other thing that I think is really important.
Please,
for real estate agents, and something that I notice in particular can be a weakness for agents. A lot of agents work from an emotion of scarcity and fear. There's just not enough business, not enough. They got to work really hard. They might not get it. They're, and that, they're just constantly pushing and working from a position of scarcity. There's not going to be enough. The phone may never ring again. I might never do a deal again, and fear, right? And that will get you to a certain level, just like being aggressive, right? Scarcity and fear is an emotion that will work in real estate to a certain degree. But once you get to that level, and I'm not ever suggesting to work from scarcity and fear, but I see lots of agents doing it.
A lot of us work from there. I mean, that's like, I don't know if I've ever had a conversation with an agent that knows how to get out of that. That's a big challenge. So,
right. So the next level is getting out of that. The next level, when you want to take your business to the next level, it's letting go of scarcity and fear. Because when you work from a position and a motivation and a mindset of scarcity and fear, you are always working in reaction. You are never working proactively.
So what would you say, scarcity and fear? I would say most realtors, and no insult to us, that speaks to me. It's very easy when you talk to people and you say the word realtor and they know 50 people off the top of their head. So scarcity and fear is a very easy place to go. Scarcity and fear, people go from that. What words would replace scarcity and fear for someone coming out of scarcity and fear into
faith and belief? And that sounds religious, but it's not. It's having faith. It's like, I've been here. I know what I'm doing. I've got all these great clients. I'm very good at what I do. And I have faith I can keep doing this really well. So now I'm going to shift. I'm going to work just as hard. I'm going to do everything that I've been doing, but I'm never doing it from a negative emotion anymore. I'm now going to do it from a positive emotion, because I've proven to myself and I've proven to the community and I've proven to all my clients that I can do this well. So
go ahead. Well, and abundance. There's not scarcity, there's abundance. And I would say, for somebody like me, I resonate with scarcity and fear. But if I look at my business, there is an abundance of it. And recognizing the abundance of business. And if you're not at a level of we're seeing abundance, just look at all the people out there who need to move. Yeah. There is an abundance of business, and just looking at it that way. So I love that.
And there always will be that abundance, even in a slow market. People are going to still keep moving. It's all still going to be happening. But shifting that emotion, it goes back to that mindset. It's like shifting that emotion. Now everyone feels a different energy from you when you walk in the door, right? Because remember, your energy walks in the door first. So when you walk in the door from faith and abundance, people believe in you more. People want to be on that team. I mean, do you want to be on the scarcity and fear team, or do you want to be on the faith and abundance team? Just think about it. Like I said, you said to me, how do I get people to hear kind of hard feedback? If it's always coming from an internal place of me believing in them and caring for them, they're going to feel that, because it's really how I feel, even if what I'm saying is hard.
Well, and scarcity and fear comes from, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose the business, and it's all about me and what I'm getting out of this. And people sense that. They sense that, and they're like, you're not even looking out for me. And obviously you don't even think you're good enough for this job. You're fired.
That's right.
And it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Bam, done. So, and it sure is a lot nicer to do business from that place. And then here's the thing too. You're not afraid to be fired when you work from faith and abundance. When you do the right thing, you're not hoping to be fired, but you're not afraid of being fired. You're more willing to take risk and tell people what they genuinely need to hear to grow and to go to the next level with selling their home or doing whatever it is they're doing. And you're willing to do that because you're more willing to do what is right, okay, and what is good for your client than just what they want you to do. And whenever you do that, the truth will always come back. It will always come back to the truth. They will always come back and eventually think, right, no, they were right. I probably should never have fired them. But it doesn't matter, because you're more willing to take that risk and do what is right. And that will always make you better at what you're doing. And that client will either come back, or they will walk away eventually knowing their truth, or knowing that you did what was right. And we can't, I love that you say that, because there's two things that come from that. You can't change the truth. The truth is the truth. It's what we do with it. And the other thing that I think of there have been, because the truth and the client's truth didn't align. And even in hindsight, I've learned so much from what I could have done to help better align that. But in addition, even though I've lost those clients, I have still generated referrals and high recommendations, and they've highly spoken of me, because everything was done out of truth, and it came back. But I would even say there are things that we can do in the understanding of the discs, which personality we're dealing with, and how to communicate with them, that we can even make that better. But it's just, I'm affirming what you're saying and my own personal experience in business.
But I think what you brought up is really important, which is that in order to be able to do all of this, work from faith and abundance, you've got to be very skilled. In order to tell someone their truth, you have to be very skilled at it. You can't just walk in and go, well, look, you're ugly. There's nothing we can do about that. I mean,
you're out.
That's just mean and hurtful. That's not a successful way to tell someone their truth, right?
Yeah.
the audience has to take that into account, that being able to speak people's truths is being able to do it in a way that's helpful, not necessarily hurtful.
Exactly. I love that. So we've got about 5 minutes. I want to ask you a couple more questions to wrap it up. And I have three. One is tools. What do you find are other than our cell phones, because that might be number one, but what do you find, whether it's a CRM, whether it's an app, whether it's something I'm not thinking of, or is the kind of a really strong, powerful tool that every agent should know about?
Tool. I think everything you mentioned, CRMs are helpful and certainly something people should be on top of. And I know people like Contactually so far the most, but I would say the biggest shift that's happened in the last year or two is that your virtual presence is such a big deal. And understanding your virtual presence and how you brand your virtual presence. I find some agents hire a lot of people to do it, but it's dangerous, and you have to make sure it's very personal to who you are. And it's something, and being able to capture an audience in the virtual presence today is going to get harder and harder and harder because people are good at it. Yeah. So really and people, your virtual presence is so powerful that before people even meet you ever physically, they can live down the street from you. They're Googling you. They're going to find everything.
And we often get ruled out for lack of virtual presence or the wrong kind of virtual presence that may not even be. Again, the virtual truth and the truth can be very far apart, but there are situations where a more competent agent can lose business because the less competent agent has the virtual presence that provides the perception, which can be a good and bad thing depending on which side you are on of that. But
you have to be embracing. If you're not someone who understands that virtual presence is critical to your success, you have to get over that immediately, and you have to be really on top of it. And if your virtual presence is boring, like you might be somebody who's putting stuff out there all the time, but you've hired a social media company to do it for you, and it's it's like every other agent. It's like I've seen another beautiful house, blah blah blah. You have to it's shifting all the time. The way to capture people in the virtual presence is changing all the time, and it's going to be one of the biggest differentiators in the next 2 years. And I'm not going to project out further because I think artificial intelligence is then going to shift us even further.
Which is so exciting, but it's so important that we stay on top of it. That's awesome. And I love that you say virtual presence because there's social media, there's websites, there are other things, there are videos, there's YouTube, there's Vimeo, there's our CRMs. There's blogs, there's connecting with blogs, there's joint ventures. I say joint venture in the sense of, there's that's just off the top of my head. So I love that you use the word virtual presence, not just website, social media presence, because it goes so much further than that. And I would love to go more into that, except we've got 2 minutes left.
So that's too big.
So what would you say if there's a book or a speaker other than you, because you're amazing, I like the books, but what would you most highly recommend our listeners that would probably benefit them the most?
Well, there's a speech out there right now that's outstanding.
Cool.
That if you haven't watched, you should. Abby Wambach, who is the women's soccer player, just gave the commencement speech at Barnard College, and it is outstanding. It is. All right,
Isaac, we're going to link that for everybody, but it's spelled. How do you spell Abby's name? So Isaac.
Abby, and then Wambach is WAM, I think BACH, but you're gonna have to look it up.
Okay.
But he's really, really good. She was really, really good. Sorry, that just came out. It went viral, and it's so good. Everyone's been watching it.
Awesome. Okay.
I don't know about books. I have to think.
I know. I can tell everybody. Isaac, what's my favorite book? No, I'm kidding. We have an ongoing joke about my book.
Which one?
Mine is Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss.
It's
changed my life.
About that.
It's changed everything for me. It is amazing, and it has a lot to do with our interview today. Never Split the Difference. It's an FBI negotiator. Hostage Negotiator. It just talks about how it's more than negotiating, it's communicating. It is such a powerful book. But I was asking you, but we always can, because I'm like, never split the difference. It's amazing if you get a chance to read it. But what is your book?
Well, so I find that, so I have a whole library, and I pull from all different books, like little pieces that I like. So it's not even that. And I would say, if anything, books are almost too dated for us, because we're on to what's coming out 5 minutes ago, you know? So we're constantly scrolling everything from, I have a research person who just spends, her time reading the Harvard Business Review and the Wharton, everything that's coming out on human behavior. And, Adam Grant's really good. He's got a lot of good stuff coming out of Wharton. But I find that we're, again, a book, the books are good for good philosophies. There's a great book on habits and all kinds of stuff. But I feel like we're evolving all of that stuff as we're going.
So my question is just way too old school.
No, I don't mean that, because I do.
No, I'm totally kidding.
That we live through.
Well, the speech is great. I mean, that's what we needed. If it's not a speech, a book, and obviously I'm sure you have a blog that we should be reading, and your column on Mary Claire, by the way.
Yeah. No, we have blogs and stuff. The stuff on the piece that comes out on NBC and Marie Claire are really good. But I think
now you've got the piece on NBC. Is that weekly or monthly?
That just came out on Friday, so that comes out monthly. It comes out monthly. The third.
We'll get a link out to everybody on that too.
Yeah, I've got a good one there actually on how to that we evolve instead of change. That's the one we'll send you.
Please do.
And that's on NBC.
Okay.
But I think, just on that piece is that people should be doing everything. They should be listening to the latest TED Talk. They should be reading the latest article on human behavior. They should be watching Abby's speech, whatever it is that's just come out. Like, that's how you kind of stay fresh.
Yeah.
Is that it's kind of, again, it's always evolving, so it's always something new.
So you said, no, I love it, because you've given I've got 3 big ahas swirling around from this interview, but I want to know from you.
Yeah.
This is our last question. What is the one thing that you want to make sure everyone, if there's one thing, if nothing else we get from this interview, what would you hope that it would be?
Well, the one thing I tell every single person in every speech, in every individual coaching session, is the only person in this lifetime you're working on is you. So all of the frustration you have with everyone else is a waste of energy, because they are not you, and you are not fixing them.
And so that frustration is really just you anyway, experiencing.
Yeah. Yep. Just, you said earlier about the difficult clients and how they're so difficult. And what makes them difficult is our own ego. Either our wrestling for the control instead of them, or our getting our feelings hurt because we think their frustration has something to do with us, or whatever it is that's going on, is that we get in the way. We let our ego get in the way of what's going on. And that is what compromises it. So the only person we're fixing is us, period. And when we're working on that, everything is going well.
You've had said so many things I've been jotting, like as quotes, like Liz Bentley quotes. Like, we let our ego get in the way of what's going on. Yep. I mean, like so many.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Liz, thank you so much. This has been great. A true honor. Awesome to spend, we spent a lot of time together, but not one-on-one like this. So this has been just really, really special. Thank you so much.